Chapter 88, 5th Year, Stalemate. Tuesday, March 16th, 1976. By the time the next full moon arrived, it became clear that Remus and Sirius had reached a stalemate. Remus had tried being indirect, catching Sirius's eye during meals or the rare evenings they were all together. He tried hanging back in the dorm room to see if Sirius would stay behind too, but no luck. Sirius's eyes never met his, and he was always the first to leave a room with Remus in it. Short of actually ambushing Sirius somewhere, which he refused to do, Remus was running out of options. The plea for another phone call with Grant was returned, with a note in Matron's neat, brutally clear handwriting on the envelope. Recipient no longer known at this address. He was completely alone. Once, Remus thought he'd got close to catching Sirius. They were leaving Charms, and James had stopped back to talk to Professor Flitwick, and Peter had nipped to the loo, so Remus and Sirius found themselves waiting alone in a busy corridor. He seized the chance, saying quietly,
"Look, about the other night."
"Yeah, we were all so pissed, right?"
Sirius laughed loudly, loud enough for people to turn and look.
"Mental. Can hardly remember half of it."
Yeah, right."
Remus withdrew. It was a complete lie, they both knew that. But it was one of those awful cases where neither of them were supposed to acknowledge the lie. Just keep stepping over it. You couldn't push Sirius any further than he was willing to go, and he was clearly not willing to go there. Then, of course, there was Mary. If Sirius did want Remus in the same way Remus wanted Sirius, then surely the Mary thing would be over. But no, Remus was going to have to come to terms with the fact that it wasn't the Mary thing. It was his best friend's relationship, and it wasn't going anywhere anytime soon. She was everywhere he was, and more often than not on his lap. During this time, Remus briefly flirted with the idea of legilimency. Being able to read Sirius's mind was very appealing. He soon gave up, finding it much more difficult than anything else he'd ever attempted. Plus, with his revision schedule now in full swing, he had very little room in his head for new spells. Now, on the night of the full moon, Remus sat alone in the shrieking shack, waiting for his friends to arrive and not sure if they would be 2 or 3. He was getting a bit paranoid, actually, but that wasn't Sirius's fault. In an attempt at escapism, Remus had been spending more and more time down at the greenhouses, spacing out and filling up with dozy green smoke. Not ideal. Better than drinking, he supposed. Better than getting detentions for stupid pranks. He'd smoked that particular day to calm his nerves around the moon, and to see if it had any effect on the transformation pains. Though goodness only knew what a stoned werewolf would be like. A sharp pain seared his shoulder blades, and he gasped with surprise. Well, that was that experiment done with.
"Evening, Mooney."
The door opened and James poked his head around.
"It's starting."
Remus clenched his jaw.
"Hurry up, get in."
James quickly transformed and was followed into the room by a large brown rat and a big black dog. Remus closed his eyes, relieved. The night of the full moon was no different from any other they'd had so far. As animals, they were less conscious, or perhaps just less concerned by their more human problems. The wolf only wanted to run and hunt, to roll about in the undergrowth and chase the black one and play fight the big one. The next morning, he felt refreshed and invigorated, or at least he would have if it weren't for the bone-crushing agony of returning to human form. Some things never changed. The Marauders crept out, only 20 minutes or so before Madame Pomfrey appeared to take Remus back to school. In the hospital wing, she gave him his usual deep sleep potion, and he did not open his eyes until well after midday. This was always going to be a problem, he had realized lately. No matter how much his monthly transformations had been improved, he still lost so much time. He'd already checked, and found that the May full moon did not coincide with any exams. This seemed very odd to him, until he realized that it must have been orchestrated this way, by Dumbledore or McGonagall. He found that a bit embarrassing. Didn't they know he had sat through classes before with his blood boiling and his muscles aching? That he had finished essays after being up for 2 days, head throbbing and so tired he only had adrenaline left for fuel? And he had still beaten half the class. He could do it. They just had to let him. How would he ever get a job after school if he couldn't be seen to be keeping up? When Remus opened his eyes at about 4 o'clock, he was very surprised to see Sirius there, alone.
"Morning."
He smiled, softly, a trace of anxiety still clinging to his features. That might not be because of Remus. Sirius was often anxious these days. If Snape was Remus's malevolent shadow, then Regulus was Sirius's. It seemed even if you left the Black family in everything but name, you were never really free of the sense of obligation, or the guilt. That could be the case with all families, Remus reflected. He wouldn't know.
Morning.
He nodded back, pulling himself up.
Good night, wasn't it?
Yeah, great.
Sirius nodded, eager for some familiar territory.
Can't believe we found that waterfall. Prongs reckons there's a cave behind it. Told him if there is, then a troll probably lives there. They like caves, don't they?
They do, yeah.
It wasn't awkward exactly. They chatted like this all the time, but they didn't usually struggle to keep a conversation going. Quite the opposite, in fact. Sirius was looking at the ceiling when out of the blue he said,
We're okay, aren't we, Moony?
His voice was small.
Course.
Remus said hurriedly.
Because you, James, Pete, you're my best mates.
Yeah, you're my best mate. You all are.
Okay, good.
Sirius looked relieved, and Remus was glad he'd said the right thing, but his face seemed to grow troubled again.
There's Mary, just now too.
Mary.
Remus repeated.
Yeah, I said I'd go and meet her. Pete'll be along in a bit.
No, it's fine. Once Madame Pomfrey's back, she'll probably let me out. I'll see you this evening?
Yeah, of course.
Sirius grinned, looking more comfortable than he had in weeks. We understand each other now.
See you at dinner, mate.
He said this last word with an overly jocular blokiness that was very unlike him. Remus was surprised he didn't punch him on the arm or knuckle his hair. Wednesday, April 14th, 1976. The next month passed in a blur of quills, books, and parchment. Remus couldn't be sure whether or not he and Sirius were still at odds, because he simply didn't have the time to worry about it. When they did see each other, in lessons, in the corridors, or yawning goodnight to each other before bed, everything seemed perfectly fine. Remus's study group had doubled in size until he had to break them up by different subjects for each day of the week. The sessions mostly took the form of running through past written papers from previous years, sharing their answers, pointing out key extracts from their various textbooks. Remus felt that he was learning just as much as he was teaching, and he was really enjoying it.
How come you're not in Ravenclaw?
Christopher asked one day as he helped Remus tidy up the disused classroom where they'd been practicing levitation. It was a mess.
My dad was, actually.
Remus smiled softly. That didn't hurt as much as it used to. There were other things, more important.
And the hat did mention it at my sorting, but not to be.
Seems like you would have been better off there.
Christopher said, repairing a shattered inkwell and cleaning up the black puddle beneath.
Maybe.
Remus shrugged.
If you'd known me, then you wouldn't think so.
They finished this job, and Remus glanced at the clock.
Shit, I have to go. Sorry, Chris. Will you be okay getting back to the tower?
Pure blood privilege,
Christopher said, making a face.
I don't get bothered. Where are you going?
It's private. Sorry. Thanks for the help.
He had to run, in the end, to get to the hospital wing in time. Madame Pomfrey scolded him lightly.
No physical exercise on full moons,
she said, fastening her cloak.
You'll get yourself agitated, and we've had such a good year.
I'll be fine.
He waved a hand, a little too casually. Maybe he ought to get Prongs to scratch him up a bit, so that she didn't get suspicious. No way would Prongs do it, though. They began to walk out into the grounds together, a journey so familiar now they could do it in their sleep.
I could do this bit on my own now,
he said conversationally.
I know how it all works well enough. You'd only need to get me in the mornings then.
Sorry, dear.
She shook her head.
Dumbledore's orders. I'm to make sure you're safely off the grounds on time.
Oh, of course.
He tried not to sound ungrateful. Of course, that was a concern, that he might forget or run late. Then what? It would be much worse than this, he thought, once he turned 17 and had to register with the ministry. Inside the shack, Madame Pomfrey shrieked.
What's wrong?
Remus withdrew his wand.
Oh, nothing.
She clutched her chest.
I saw a rat. Horrible things. Sorry, dear, I wish we could find a nicer place for you.
Oh, it's fine. See you in the morning.
When the door closed, he spun around.
Pete? Was that you?
Sorry, Moony.
Peter's voice came from upstairs.
I was supposed to be keeping guard.
He came down the staircase, followed by Sirius and James, who were yawning and looked as though they'd just woken up.
What are you two doing here?
Remus asked, surprised.
What about the match?
We've been sleeping since the final bell.
James explained.
Then we'll get another hour or two's kip in the morning, and lunchtime, if we can swing it.
You're mental.
Remus shook his head.
Both of you.
He looked at Sirius to check if they were still playing the eye contact game.
Anything for our Moony?
Sirius said, holding his gaze for a good few seconds before dropping it, looking away and rubbing his arm. This satisfied Remus, though he knew he ought to feel guilty. He didn't know why he took so much pleasure in watching Sirius squirm.
We're early.
Peter said, sitting on Remus's little cot.
Aren't we, Remus?
Yeah, I think so.
He stretched a little bit to get a feel for his various aches and twinges.
Yeah, I'm a way off.
Oh, good. Can I go back to sleep?
Sirius yawned. He and James had settled themselves on the floor, and Sirius was resting his head on James's shoulder. Fuck you, James, Remus thought, before stopping himself. He leaned against the wall, self-consciously.
Oi, when's your appointment with McGonagall?
James asked, shrugging his shoulder to shake Sirius off.
First thing next Friday, I think. Why?
What are you going to say?
Say.
About careers, idiot.
Oh, right.
Sirius stifled another yawn, his eyes watering with tiredness.
Ugh, I don't know. Don't really fancy the idea of a job much. Father wanted me to go into politics, so I suppose not that.
My mum says it's a bad time to join the ministry.
Peter said thoughtfully.
But Desi reckons it's the best time. When the war's over, we'll be in on the ground floor to rebuild.
Well, that's one way of looking at it.
Sirius raised an eyebrow. He nudged James.
Go on then. Tell us what your plans are.
James looked at him innocently.
Oh, come on, Potter. Don't tell me you haven't got it all laid out in front of you. Puddlemere, Holyhead, the cannons. Who's shown the most interest so far?
Actually,
James raised his head in a very dignified way.
If you must know, they've all inquired, according to McGonagall. But I'm turning them down, for now, anyway.
Oh, yeah? Going to have a gap year and live off your sleek, easy millions?
No, you get. I'm going to fight.
There was a weird sort of pause. Sirius looked deeply troubled. Remus broke it.
You what, mate?
Well,
James looked uncharacteristically nervous about this.
the war won't end unless people fight it. Mum and Dad are working so hard and, well, I couldn't be any kind of son if I didn't help, would I? Dumbledore needs as many people as he can get. Plus,
He laughed shakily.
if Wormy wants a job at the ministry, we'd better make sure the ministry is still standing, right?
So, when you speak to McGonagall, you'll say,
That Quidditch can wait. That I want to do everything I can to make sure the wizarding world is safe for everyone, not just purebloods. Yeah, pretty much.
James ended, simply, looking down at his hands. Quiet again. Finally, Sirius muttered.
then that's what I'll say too.
Mate, you don't have to.
What else am I going to do? Retire with my uncle's inheritance and let you have all the fun. Piss off.
Me too.
Peter said suddenly, eager to be included.
I can help.
Course you can.
James beamed.
You're a marauder. That's basically the best qualification you can have.
What about you, Moony?
Peter gabbled, excited and bright-eyed.
I'm going to... Oomph.
Too late, here it comes.
Shit. Change. Quick.
They all leapt up, ready to take their animal forms. The last thing Remus saw clearly was his three friends, standing together, thinking about their futures.